Hey friends! Today we're going to be talking about a highly requested topic, so get yourself your matcha latte or your beverage of choice, and we're getting right into it. So today we're going to be talking about my yoga journey and how it's evolved over these 10 plus years, really. And I've shared bits and pieces about my yoga journey before on Instagram, but I feel like I've never really completely shared the whole thing because I feel like there just wasn't enough space. And even though I love Instagram and I love creating content, I feel like, and even though I was doing all of these long captions, I felt like maybe some people wouldn't read it and would just be like, oh, this is such a cute photo of you. And this is totally fine. I mean, that's all okay. But I felt like I wanted to have a space where I could connect on a deeper level to you guys. So this is why, or one of the reasons why I started talking on YouTube more. But back to my yoga journey. So let's get back to where it all started. I actually started practicing yoga in 2011 already, but I wasn't really hooked yet. It just seemed to be something that was up and coming at that point. So I just did some yoga at my local gym. I already started my spiritual journey as well. I was meditating and manifesting and stuff, but yeah, I wasn't really hooked on yoga yet. I mean, I could already do all of the stuff because of my background in dance and cheerleading, but yeah, I wasn't like fully convinced, to be honest. It wasn't until like 2014 that I started practicing very regularly at home with some yoga DVDs on my living room rug. um, but I didn't have the confidence to go to a yoga studio yet. I just wasn't like a very confident person at that time. And it wasn't until the very end of 2016, when I was going for a really tough breakup, that I started practicing at a yoga studio. And I feel like in so many ways, this breakup was a blessing in disguise because it really pushed me out of my comfort zone in so many ways. Because before that, I just wasn't really confident to go to a yoga studio, and I was just always in my comfort zone and not willing to leave it. But at that point, I really had to leave the house to meet new people and do new stuff. So that's what I did. Unfortunately, in spring 2017, I got diagnosed with endometriosis. So I was already chronically ill before. I just didn't really know. um, I mean, I was in pain, but anyway, that's a story for another time. So I had my first endometriosis surgery, and after that, I obviously needed some time to recover, but then I got right back into my yoga practice that I loved so much. Unfortunately, in the summer of 2017, my yoga teacher that I was practicing with at that time, she had to close down her studio again. And and also I failed my final exam at university. I was also not really confident in this area of my life, obviously, because I studied so hard and yeah, I just couldn't deliver, you know? And so I had to wait for one semester to be able to retake that final exam because everything else I had passed already. So I was wondering or contemplating what to do with that time, you know. And then I realized like having this semester off is actually such a gift because now I can use it to really do a yoga teacher training, um, because this is something that I'm really interested in. So up until that point, I think I was 25 or something, I felt like everything I had done up until that point was for someone else, for maybe like my ex-boyfriend, my family, friends, or whatever. I felt like I had always lived my life for other people, but I had never invested in myself before. And it felt so scary to me to take all of my savings at that time and invest it in this yoga teacher training. So I applied to my yoga teacher training. I got accepted right away. I signed up. But I remember I didn't pay until the very last moment because I was so afraid to spend all of that money and do something for me without an agenda. I wasn't even like thinking that I would want to do that as a career at that point. I just knew I liked to practice yoga and that I wanted to dive deeper, you know? And one morning, I just left for the south of France to do my yoga teacher training. And wow, these were the most transformative weeks of my entire life. And I'm so grateful I was brave enough to say yes to this experience. And I've talked about this recently on my Instagram that in hindsight, the decisions that I made out of fear, scarcity, lack, anxiety were always the wrong decisions in the end, and or the decisions that I regret the most, and the decisions or the things that I did out of love, curiosity, joy, and just like out of fun were always the decisions that ended up to be so right for me and ended up to be like the best experiences ever, and things that, looking back at those, I often feel like, well, I should have done this before, you know, or why haven't I done this before? So this is at least how I see it. And yeah, as I said before, I didn't really have a yoga teacher that I could really relate to or connect to on a deeper level. So I was really glad that I found Rachel Hanbury. I'll leave her website or something in the description below. So after my yoga teacher training, I was really convinced to start teaching as well. As I said before, I actually only did the yoga teacher training because I wanted to have like some personal growth and also advancement in my own practice, but I realized that I really enjoyed teaching as well, so I got right back into it. And but I was still chronically ill at that point. At the end of 2018, I had to have another emergency surgery, but that was actually my last surgery. And before that, I was envying the people a little bit who could just move around and travel the world and do all of the things because I just couldn't because I was bedridden a lot. Um, but this last surgery really helped me a lot in my healing process. And 4 weeks after the surgery, I went to London with my dear friend Louise to go and attend a yoga workshop led by Jessica Oli. And that was so much fun. I enjoyed it so much, although I was still healing a little bit. And then in 2019, I got so hardcore in my practice, and I have to say, I was still at university, so I had a lot of time on my hands. So I was practicing 4 hours a day and also teaching and posting all of the yoga content on Instagram because I also really wanted to grow a following on Instagram as well. And that was actually the time when I started posting every single day because I really wanted to make a difference. But we all know what happened in 2020. So I couldn't teach in person anymore, and so I just did yoga online, did some yoga classes, like the live yoga classes that everyone did, and also started doing some collaborations. And because I was practicing so much and doing so much yoga, I got really like yoga asanas. I also did like all of the other limbs of yoga, but I mean, I did a lot of advanced yoga asanas and yoga flows on social media. I wasn't really showing like my spiritual practice or anything. I was just showing like my yoga poses at that time. And yeah, my following grew a lot in 2020 and 21. But I feel like I wasn't really showing like a lot of me and like my personality and all of the other things that I'm interested in. And I also had a lot of ego in my practice. So at that point, I focused hardcore on progress in my yoga poses. I was doing yoga poses all day long. I really wanted to have some advancement, and as I said, I also showed my practice online and all of the poses that I could do or was working on, and I really, really wanted to get better. And there was so much ego in my yoga practice. And obviously, I know that I wasn't mindful at all. And obviously, I know that this is against all of what yoga really is. So at that point, it was just like nice poses, but not really yoga anymore. So in 2021, I was so burned out from doing all of the yoga poses. I had water retention in my body. I was really puffy. I had really bad acne, and I felt so exhausted and depleted all the time, but I just couldn't let go. I was obsessed. And some of my very good friends told me that I needed to take a beat. on many, many occasions, but I just couldn't. I was so hooked, although my body told me, like, you really need to take a step back. So at some point, I got really, really burned out from practicing yoga asanas, so that I actually had to cancel last minute on a yoga challenge because I just couldn't do it anymore. So I stopped with the yoga poses completely for about half a year. I was still like practicing all of the other principles of yoga, but I just didn't do the poses. So in April 2022, I started practicing my yoga poses again, but with a whole different approach. I started focusing more on yin and restorative practice, and also took longer breaks in between to recover. And I also quit doing yoga on Instagram on a daily basis, and started sharing more of the other things that I'm really interested in. Like, it's not so far from yoga. I mean, I'm just interested in all things health and wellness, obviously, also coming from having had a chronic disease. I'm really interested in holistic health, which is also why I did my holistic health training in 2022 till 2023. Obviously, I've talked about it before. Unfortunately, I had a miscarriage in 2023, which was also not the best of times. And after that, I stopped practicing again for a little while because I needed to recover from birth, and as I had a miscarriage at in week 11, I had to go right back into work after, or I mean, I kind of also chose that. And so for a very long time, I just went to work and then went straight to this couch actually to sleep and recover after work. So I didn't really have much energy to do all of my asana practice while still meditating. I always meditated through and through and still do. And as I got busier and busier with work, yoga just got a bit on a back burner, to be honest. And it wasn't like until mid 2025, I want to say, that I established a regular yoga practice again. Also, which I don't often share on Instagram anymore. Sometimes I also do yoga in my pajamas. And also today, earlier today, I went for a run and I didn't look cute. I didn't wear any makeup. I had greasy hair, and after that I did some yoga, and I didn't feel like filming that, but I actually did do some splits today. So obviously my yoga practice has changed and evolved a lot throughout the years or even the decade. But I'm so entirely grateful for this amazing practice. I wouldn't change a thing. My yoga practice has taught me so much about myself and life. So I'm so entirely grateful. And if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing, to be honest, although there were a lot of ups and downs as well. I cannot do all of the poses that I used to be able to do. Like, I cannot hold a handstand anymore, for example, but that's not my goal anymore. Actually, I'm just right now in 2026, I'm just where I started and where my intentions like when I started my yoga practice. I just want to have fun and enjoy the ride. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching or listening, and talk to you guys soon.